My mind keeps telling me that I'll lose my soul if I surrender to full awakening. What is the relationship between body, mind, soul, and presence? My mind keeps telling me that I will lose my soul if I surrender to full awakening. You will lose. Yes, that's of course the mind, of course, will say that or make you feel that. Because what is lost is the mind's power over you and the identification with the mind. What is lost is the false sense of self, that is, the egoic mind, the false sense of identity, the false sense of I. The word I, the greatest illusion. People say it all the time, I. What are they referring to? To an illusory sense of identity. And then that dissolves as you awaken spiritually, and something else arises, and that is the presence. And when you then say an I, that is more true. You're speaking of the one timeless presence. Then I has a true meaning. So that arises, and if you believe that you're going to lose your identity in that, that's an illusion. Your only identity is already that. Even if you are completely unconscious, your only sense of identity comes from the one universal I, which is consciousness itself, which is shining through the mental formations that may be very dense, but it's shining through them, and the mental formations are thought forms and stories that the mind is telling. And these thought forms and stories, the me, the story of me and my problems and so on, that you believe that story and those thought forms that make up the stories, you believe that those are your sense of identity, that where it come from. But if you look more closely and more deeply, you would see that there is no identity in the story of your life, that your true sense of identity, if you are very careful and alert and see or feel where that sense of you comes, the I, me as this, there's something in your sense of identity that cannot really be named. It's mistaken as the story, but really what happens is the light of consciousness shines through the story of me, and that gives you the sense of who you are. So you're mistaking that which shines through the thought forms and the story, you're mistaking that and believe that it is the thought forms that give you your sense of identity, but they don't. And that's why when you become still and thought subsides for a moment, for example now, there is no loss in your sense, your true sense of self. In fact, you are more fully yourself in that spacious no thought than you were when you were identified with the story. But when you were identified with the story and the thought forms, even there it was the light that was shining through the consciousness that ultimately was the basis for your sense of identity, of feeling I. But when you realize it truly, in its undiluted form, unobstructed, pure presence, and then you realize at this moment, even without remembering your story, even your name, because you don't know your name until I ask you what is your name, and then you go into the recesses of your mind and get the information out. But even at this moment, without remembering your name or your story, but just being absolutely just present here, have you lost yourself? Have you disappeared? Or is the essence of who you are actually more fully present now without reference to the story of me? And you'll find that you are actually more fully present here without reference to the story. The essence of who you are has always been, will always be, and always is the light of consciousness. And so the liberation is to encounter it, to realize it directly. So nothing, you cannot lose yourself, you can only find yourself. Because you've lost yourself already, temporarily, so to speak, when you're lost in thought forms. And the thought forms say, I'm the only thing that's real about you. But how are they able to say that? How are they able to say, I'm the only thing that's real? Because there's a consciousness there that flows into the thought forms, and they assume a form. But the essence behind the form is the light of consciousness. So you don't lose yourself or your soul or your, if you surrender to full awakening, but you fully realize yourself there, beyond past and future, beyond mind. You've been lost already, that you've done that.